county gets.
Good evening. We have a couple special committees. Finance is up at 5 o'clock. I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Reynolds.
Okay, good evening. Call the Finance Assessment and Insurance Committee together. What's this one resolution? Board of Supervisors request home rule legislation for extension of the additional 1% sales tax.
Support.
Got a second?
Second.
Got a second? Anybody want to discuss? Or Mr. Jonathan?
I could. So I believe it's the 5-year mark has hit, and the county has until November 30th of this year for the re-upping of the 1%. And I think County Attorney Ettman had recommended to bring this to a special meeting to get the ball rolling to ensure that it gets to Albany in time for this session before they adjourn.
Done this many a moon. I don't know. Any discussion?
If you really want to, sure we could.
You want to discuss, Kyle? What do you want to do, Kyle? Want to go to 6 or something?
Don't ask him.
Well, so I did call each member of this committee to discuss this and just see where we were and to see if it was worth evaluating asking for something else other than 1%. And the reason obviously is rooted in sales tax, but I was just thinking we got the email from Mitch recently about is it called the FMAP funds?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's about $775,000 that's being held back by the governor's office. So I asked the question via email, but I did want to clarify, has that money ever landed in our bank accounts, or have they always intercepted it?
It has since, I believe, for roughly 20 years. So I think this would be the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not that I actually want to raise or lower the sales tax, but when I hear that the governor's intercepted $775,000 and I start to look at the numbers, and I see that 1/10 of 1% of a sales tax is about $775,000. So I just wanted to bring it to this committee to say, if we identify a shortfall, we should at least look at the options to make up that shortfall. So raising the sales tax by 0.1% would make up that money that we lost. And of course, if we wanted to share sales tax with all the towns, were we to raise the sales tax to 8.5%, that would generate about $3.75 million in revenue, which is almost exactly the amount that I've been asking the county to share. So just something to chew on or a thought. And I have much more data than that if you'd like, Mike.
I'm sure you do, and I'm good. But anybody else wants it? See Kyle. It's another tax, and I can't imagine wanting to do that. Oh, Bob?
All due respect, Kyle.
Yeah.
I would be against trying to raise it more than what we've been getting for the last 20 years. Only because I don't feel Seneca, New York State is not a business-friendly state to start with. We have been trying to do everything within our realm to help our local businesses. Putting more percentage on them for sales tax to make it even what some surrounding counties are, puts an undue burden on them. I think there's other ways we could come up with that money.
I do too. I've been looking around at many different ways, which I'll propose as the months go on. Yeah, I don't think businesses would have the burden because they're ultimately just the collector and they send it to the state and then the state sends it back. I understand. My concern is more the burden on the taxpayer itself and how much they would pay if we were to increase sales tax. When I talked to Mike, everybody had a different concern, which I thought was really interesting. Mike, large vehicle purchases you thought would be the burden when you and I spoke.
Car dealers, yep. That's what I
Yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
So I ran some numbers there, and if you buy a $20,000 car, you're going to pay about $1,600 in sales tax at 8%. If we were to raise it to 8.5%, you'd pay $21,700 instead of $21,600. If you bought a $59,000 Ford Super Duty F-250 XL, that's about $62,000, and that would add about $250 to your total purchase. Instead of $61,500, you'd be paying $61,750. So you're right, it is more. It is a tax. It's straight up a tax. But it doesn't seem like it would affect us that much. We'd also be paying it. The last piece of data that I have is if you're like me and you're a family of 4 and you go to the grocery store, we pay about $200 when we go to the grocery store. With tax, it's about $216. Under my proposal, I'd pay $217. So is it that much of a burden? Half a percentage? I don't think so. Would it raise $3.5 million for the county? Yeah. Would each of our towns get over 6 figures to address roads, infrastructure, parks, whatever it may be? Yeah. I think the impact is much greater than the burden, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
I'd like to respond.
You got a rebuttal? I'll
Yes, I
rebuttal
do.
if you don't.
And that is, in all due respect, you're talking about a $40,000 or $50,000 car. What about my neighbor here who lives in the town of Junius that has a new business that sells motorhomes and campers? Those motorhomes are $200,000-$300,000. Would that make a difference to them in sales tax, bringing people into Seneca County to buy something here? It certainly might.
I think if you look at that, wherever the person is from, what county, that's what their sales tax is based on. So if I buy a new
To pay the
motorhome,
home rate,
if I buy a new motorhome and I live in Syracuse, I'm paying Onondaga County sales tax, not Seneca County. Same as cars.
Where it's registered, I think, yeah.
But yeah, same with
registered.
vehicles.
Yep.
When I
The
talk
question
to,
is, how many people in Seneca County are going to buy a new motorhome? That's the question.
and if so, if you're paying $200,000 on a motorhome, 0.5% would be another $1,000. That seems like a lot, but when you're already paying almost $250,000, that's nothing. My other question would be is, how much would it affect our taxpayers as opposed to, say, tourists or outside taxpayers? I asked some folks in Lodi and Covert where they do their grocery shopping. Most of the folks I talk to in Lodi either go to Trumansburg or Watkins Glen. So they're not even spending.
county.
Out of
Exactly.
county.
So they're not even spending their own money on sales tax in Seneca County. They're bringing it elsewhere. And I didn't ask too many people in Covert, but I suspect they're going to SureSave over in Trumansburg.
Or going to Ithaca.
Yeah.
We're either going to go to Ithaca or out of, or Watkins Glen, one of the two, and it's out of county.
So while I think Mike gave me the most valid argument saying that when you buy a car, you're going to get hit hard because that is a really big purchase. But I think all the little stuff, I think mostly tourists are going to pay these taxes. The outlet mall, with the exception of the cars, but the outlet mall, the wineries and things like that, the room taxes, the hotels, that's where we're going to generate most of the sales tax from. So our folks aren't going to be that hurt by it.
But if you raise it too much, are you gonna keep people not coming down to the mall and shop?
Do you think so?
Yes, I do.
I don't. I respect that, and
Mall's been there 20-some years, and in some of the charts, the clothing industry part of it, that's the most for the county. You start taking that stuff away, you're gonna feel that.
Yeah, I'll shop around if I gotta pay an extra tax, so, yeah. Go, Paul, sorry.
I just happened to be around when that mall was going in, outlet mall. Dave Bagley and I were the only ones that thought it was a good idea. And back then, our Seneca County sales tax was, I think, 3%, and every other county.
Yeah, we were 7 forever.
You know, we were lower than every other county around here.
Yep.
That's why all the downtown stores, it was only 1%.
Yep.
But all the downtown stores, they sold appliances and clothes and shit. They're all packed. People would come from all the surrounding counties for that 1%.
and do you think we lost it when we went to 8?
Now, you know, we're comparable to the surrounding counties. Maybe we're a little bit behind right now, or not sure where we stand on all the surrounding counties. But I know that was a big draw. That was 20 years ago, you know. And I suggested, you know, when they put the mall in, they wanted to raise the sales tax. I said, drop it a point and see how many people come.
So that's what I was going to do once you guys said that we were overtaxed and it would hurt us too much, is I was going to offer to lower it as well to see if we can save ourselves some money. But I think the effects are marginal.
And remember when we had the last crisis before COVID?
You mean the gas crisis?
Yeah, remember all the sales tax bit the dust in all the surrounding counties except our sales tax.
Yeah, we never took it off.
Because that was, yeah, because the gasoline is cheaper here.
Gas is cheaper, right?
Yeah, and everybody come here to get
Thomas
gas.
County drive 30 miles up
Yeah.
here to get gas up here, which doesn't make
I
any
mean, a
sense.
little bit. Remember a guy driving a
30 miles.
58 Oldsmobile up here from Ithaca.
Yeah,
Saved
yeah.
5 cents on a gallon of gas, and
Paul, the bigger reason was Petro out here, where we created the legislation through Albany to let tractor trailers, duals, come off the thruway, go across 414 and into Petro. Almost every one that goes into Petro buys 200 gallons of diesel fuel. And up and down the thruway, Petro is the cheapest for diesel fuel. That's why they all come in here at night.
well, I know it makes a difference.
So
People will drive a long way to save a couple pennies.
Does anybody here have any idea of any municipality with a higher sales tax rate?
I think Ontario County, I thought was higher.
Yeah, someplace up north is higher. They're at 8%.
So Ontario is actually one of the few that isn't.
Isn't?
No, isn't. So over half the counties in the state have municipalities that charge over 8%. The closest one, both in proximity to us and in demographics, is Allegheny County. They're at 8.5%. No major cities, and the county keeps 100% of the sales tax there, but they're at 8.5%.
we're
So,
on the Pennsylvania line,
yeah.
and there's not much down there. So
No, but you would think that they're even more inclined to lower that rate considering how many folks go across the border for cigarettes in Pennsylvania and gas and things like that. But reading the newspaper articles from Olean and out west, they either want to keep raising it or they don't want to lower it. So it's really interesting. I'll just say thank you for the debate. I had no expectation that we'd actually change the sales tax rate. I think it's worthy of looking at, especially when we have budgetary shortfalls. And as a whole, I think it is a good program that could help us get some money to the towns and the villages. So thanks, everybody.
Mitch, once this goes through, how long did this last, 4 years or 5 years?
5.
5. So you can't,
It'll depend on what the legislature's been going back and forth, going to 3 to 5. Last time they did a 3.
so it can't be changed once we do,
We have to go through the process again.
Just state legislature.
you could do it on a yearly basis, even if,
Yeah, if your legislatures don't mind. No?
Even a quarter point would raise $2 million in funds. A quarter point, which would be like 50 cents extra in tax on a $200 grocery bill.
conceptually, it's not an awful idea, okay? But I think
The nicest thing you've ever said about me.
14 legislatures, you need to do some homework as far as, A, what is the percentage of people, of our sales tax revenue comes from outside sources, outside residents? And I think the chamber could probably give you an educated guess on stuff like that. And B, I would like to listen or hear from some business owners and just get their idea what they think this what impact that would be. These are the people that we're talking about, most often.
Hey, Joe.
Business owner here. As much as I would love some relief at the town level, I couldn't support it only because being a business owner, especially so close to another county, as a business owner, we're struggling every day just to sell jobs. We're cutting prices with the supply chain the way it is. We are struggling to find parts. We're sourcing here and there, and somebody in the town of Culver can drive down to Trumansburg and save $2 on a repair. They're doing it right now, just the way the economy is. So as much as I would love to have some type of relief at the town level, I couldn't support it. I've talked to a few other business owners around me who say the same thing, that just doesn't come off as business friendly, especially right now. Not saying that it may not be in the future, but right now, as hard as it is to make a living, auto repair my business, we might do a $7,000 or $8,000 engine, and that's a lot of money on a $7,000, $8,000 engine. That isn't a purchase that somebody goes out and seeks. That's something that they're forced to have to do just to get to work. So that would be my opinion on do it as a business owner.
Okay.
Mitch, you have an
Just to clarify, Supervisor Ferrara, the resolution before the board prepared by County Attorney Ettman, seeks a 5-year extension.
What I thought.
Whether we get it or not.
They say it depends on if they
That's
have.
not the point. Is what I'm saying is we're seeking a 5-year extension. So again, I'm confused. So this is the resolution we're going to send to Albany.
Right.
If in 2024 we change our mind, can we change it?
We send another letter, we go through the
We
whole.
can send another letter and say we want to rescind our 5-year extension?
You're asking them for another home rule legislation to either increase, decrease, or whatever, just like we did when we made the changes to the occupancy tax uses and the 5% share. We did that mid-term, if you want to call it that. It's just the basic home rule thing. There's nothing that says it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just that's what you want to do. That's what the board can do.
Mitch, do you have an unofficial opinion? I won't, you don't have to give one if you don't want to. As far as the impact, I mean, obviously, the sales tax impact.
Couple things. There's a part of the Governor Hochul's budget proposal before the legislature now that may not require this going back to Albany going into the future. I don't know how that is going to go. Our sales tax number in terms of an extra ½ point, or lowering, I mean, the numbers have been very strong, but for the COVID impact era, we seem to be doing really well, knock on wood. And, the idea of sharing with towns, villages, or school district is over my head. And a number of us have had that discussion, but Seneca County is very fortunate to have the sales tax revenue that it has. It takes a lot of pressure off the county property tax levy.
Are we live?
Yes.
Okay. So just before we leave, I have
Are you shaming me publicly or privately?
article. Seneca Falls is not the highest tax rate in the county. If you look at the equalization rate, okay, which is the major influence of what the tax rate is, then we're not. So unfortunately, Seneca Falls, similar to Lodi, will be about 71%, okay? That's all going to change here because we're getting towards the end of a reevaluation so we'll go to 100%, okay? And when we go to 100%, then our tax rate will go down.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
So sorry, go ahead.
Let Bob talk there, Bob.
Yeah, I'd like to just come back to what Kyle's talking about. Before you continue discussions on this, I would suggest that you reach out to our TPA, who does represent all the businesses or a majority of businesses throughout the county, and let them quiz their own. They'll give you numbers.
Yeah, that's fine. So the research that I did was through the comptroller's office. I know many of us have tried to get town by town or municipality numbers from them. They don't share them. The best that they could do was break it out by industry, which is what I was looking at. Basically, when I brought up sales tax revenue sharing to every supervisor here, which I have for 3 years, most of your answers are find the money. Just find the money and we'll consider it. And so I've been looking in every corner for the money. And this is just another method that we could use if we needed to. There will be more proposals coming, and you'll be plenty annoyed with me by June, but I'll keep it on the table and keep asking.
Well, one of the things that I pointed out on the One Seneca call last Thursday, when they talked about this FMAP and the governor's changes that are going to increase the Medicaid cost. Right now, Seneca County pays about $118,000 a week to Albany for our share of Medicaid. That equals about 63% of our total tax levy, our property tax levy. So, and it's going up another $775,000. So that's less money we have to operate with.
So my understanding of
And our budget was put in place before the governor come up with this.
my understanding of the Medicaid funds is that those funds are capped. They are permanently capped at the state level. by legislation so that counties cannot be charged any extra. Now, if they're pulling income or revenues from us, that changes it. But that's exactly the point of this conversation. That's where I started to say, the governor's holding $775,000, and 1/10 of a sales tax is $775,000. The other thing I'll point out in finding the money is I think the issue here, one of the issues has been many people think this is tax shifting from the county to the town or from the town to the county, and what matters is the county tax rate. If you look at the 4 South County towns with an equalization rate of 58, 59, 60%, once those towns get reassessed, not only will it bring your town tax rate down, it'll bring our county tax rate down. Because if Lodi is sitting at $175 million of assessed value with a 58% equalization rate, you're saying that Lodi's actual property value is up in 325, something like that. Just Lodi reassessing alone would lower the county tax rate. So we have a lot of mechanisms here that we can do I think we can do this without hurting the county budget.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a vote before Mr. Heisen realizes what we're talking about?
There's no,
Hi, Bob.
On issue 1 there, yeah, we can. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed during, okay. We're good on that. Got one more thing here, I think. Well, Haley, don't you want to go over some budget amendments or something?
That's gonna be for the.
That's for the meeting, all right, I got the wrong page here, all right. Maybe I'm done then.
Thanks for the respectful debate.
Thank you, Supervisor Reynolds. Supervisor Reinhardt, Public Safety.
Thank you. At this time, I'll call the special meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Please note that there's 4 of the 5 members present. We have one item to discuss, and that is the filling of the vacant coroner's position. I trust everybody was forwarded a copy of the 3 applications that we received. Everybody did not get them on the committee? We need to make a decision. This is filling the term that Frank Eldridge was elected to and did not accept that position. Given the 3 candidates, I would entertain a motion to fill the position. My recommendation, and this is just my recommendation, is that we fill it with Joe Stevens.
I second that.
Any discussion? With no other discussion, there's a motion and a second to fill the vacant coroner's position with Joe Stevens. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Thank you. With no further business, the special meeting of Public Safety is closed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Reinhardt. Supervisor Jeff Trout, Government Operations.
Yeah, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we actually start before 5:30, or is that not a?
We're rolling.
Okay.
Oh, wait, this is the whole thing?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Government Operations Committee has a couple items before it. The first item that we have is a resolution amending the Standing Committee of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors, amending the rules of order for 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion, second? Second. Discussion? Realize I missed a lot of the discussion last time.
This was brought up in committee 2 weeks ago, and it was defeated 2-2. And I don't know the routine of how it comes back to committee, but it's back to committee. So that there was no. I think I was. If it wasn't, my philosophy is not broke, why do we have to fix it? And I thought some of the committees were heavy with a lot of responsibilities, and whoever the chairman is of that committee would be tasked with a lot of work versus, other smaller committees. But I like the idea that every board member has the opportunity to be a chairman of a committee. That was my argument.
That's mine also. If you go to 8, there'll be a few people left out.
So, Tracy.
That's just my thought.
So I actually had an opportunity to talk to the chairman about this and get his thoughts, also a couple other folks. On the one hand, I think those are good arguments. They make sense to me. On the other hand, I don't know, I consider that it would be, I kind of like the idea of shaking things up and perhaps seeing how things might progress. I hadn't thought about the heaviness of certain committees over others in terms of the responsibilities. Any thoughts, other folks?
Well, the health committees, that was brought up by Supervisor Reynolds, he thought was heavy. But I'll point out to you, that's the same way that they were in 2017, 18, and 19. All three were combined. And we didn't stop functioning then.
There's nothing much going on at that time. It's not, you're not always putting a more of a load on each one. Depends on what's on the agenda.
Other comments, even from other supervisors, or?
Those three health committees also, if you notice, they're the same 5 board members. Basically, it's the same committee anyways, you just switched the chair out, so I just noticed that.
Any other thoughts?
Keep looking up here. What's going on?
I just, I want to make sure.
I voted no the last time on this, but I thought about some more, and we still got the same amount of work to do. Now I'm thinking maybe just let it go, or you want to go down to 8? I'd support 8 just as well as the 13. So,
But isn't there 9, or am I?
or 9, 8 or 9, whatever you want to scale it down to. We still got the same amount of work. It's just a couple committees are gonna get hammered with a lot of work, but we'll figure it out, I guess. I've been here long enough. I've had no committees, so I supported the wrong chairman once in a while, and I ended up with no committees. So I've done the whole gambit here, and the work's still got to be done. So I don't care. Whatever you guys want to do, I'd say let's do it. And whatever we got to make a decision tonight because things are starting to back up. So. In the rest of the world, so we got to make a decision tonight.
Well, another thought I had was to pass it through and let the entire board decide.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I tend to gravitate towards the shakeup of it and see if things change or if certain topics get addressed that seem to not get addressed, in my opinion, even though I'll respectfully have only been on the board a year. I also tend to fall to the argument that each person having a committee might be worth it. I don't know. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Oh, Bob's got a comment.
Bob?
Well, committee number 9, we put sewer districts and water districts in the south end. We meet at a different time. We don't have arguments and fighting them anymore about it. Get the work done. Well, now you're going to have sewer district number 3 and sewer district number 4. So we don't know who's going to be on the committee. I don't know how anybody from the south end could vote for that if you don't know that. It's working really good. That was shaking it up right there. People say we shook it up and it worked great.
Yeah,
So now you're gonna
all our meetings were arguing about the south end sewer and water.
You might have 3 people from Waterloo or 2 people from Waterloo on this committee. We may not have any say. It might bounce me right off there, even though
That's what it was back in the day. It was all up north people telling the south people what to do. So and then we got it all lined up better. And
Try it again.
you're right. Got to keep that one the same. They shouldn't monkey with that one.
You gotta change that.
So did I miss, do we know who's on those committees? No, okay, all right, we don't know who's on those committees.
Yeah. Let's see who's on what committee.
Well, sewer district number 3 and 4 are on 318 and 414. And quite honestly, they're only the users that are on there. So I don't think it's a big deal. Why would a county supervisor be negative about a sewer district that is in Junius as they would be if they were in Lodi or Varick or whatever.
Mr.
Do
Chairman,
what's best for all the county.
just a point, and I appreciate the debate, but it seems like this is a debate that should happen on the floor with everybody here, because it's kind of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So why don't we as the committee just make, if there's a support to move it to the full board and have this debate in front of the full board?
I'm fine with that. Yep. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed? I'd like a roll call. I'm only kidding.
Motion passes.
What's the motion now?
And do we have another one? The next issue, Board of Supervisors call on the state of New York to continue the pass-through Federal Affordable Care Act enhanced federal Medicaid assistance percentage funds.
Motion,
There was a second.
However you want to do it.
whatever.
Questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Any other business come before government ops? This may be its last action ever, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Jeff Trout. And that is it right now for the special committee, so we'll take a little break until we have the board meeting at 6 p.m.
Refreshments provided. trying to hold on.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 14th, 2023 Board of Supervisors regular meeting. Get a roll call by the clerk, please.
Supervisor Reynolds.
Here.
Supervisor Trout.
Here.
Supervisor Brownell.
Here.
Supervisor Barnhart.
Here.
Supervisor Borst.
Here.
Supervisor Hayes. Supervisor Ferrara.
Here.
Supervisor Cronenwater.
Here.
Supervisor Reinhardt.
Here.
Supervisor Partee. Supervisor Heisen.
Here.
Supervisor Don Trout.
Here.
Supervisor Enslow.
Here.
Supervisor Shipley.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please all rise for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
America.
to the republic for which it
Which
stands,
stands.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone can be seated. Okay. We don't have any presentations tonight. We don't have any petitioners. At this time, I'm going to open privilege of the floor. So if anybody from the public would like to come and address the board, now would be the time. You can come up to the podium, state your name, and address, please, where you're from. That'd be great. Each person gets 5 minutes.
My name is Doug McMillan. I'm from Seneca Falls, New York.
Could you thank you. We can all hear you.
I'd like to ask a couple questions. I don't know if you can answer them now or just wait. How many New York firearm laws has this board protested on behalf of the people? It's a question I'd like for you guys to find out for me.
I couldn't hear it.
Can't hear you.
Really? How many New York firearm laws has this board protested on behalf of the people? If it hasn't, why hasn't it? We just found out that the 1911 New York law was just found unconstitutional, and the governor that has already acted unconstitutional pushed through more unconstitutional gun laws. Does the county have any way of declaring the gun laws unconstitutional on behalf of its citizens? And if not, are you telling me we have no way not to enforce unconstitutional laws? This writing is answering the following questions. Why are the Bill of Rights being interpreted and stripped from the American people instead of being protected as the fundamental foundation to the security of individuals' liberty? How many rights have been under attack since the start of the 1900s? The claim for protection of the people is a false agenda and unconstitutional. Rulings that gun owners rest our claim that New York gun laws are unconstitutional. In McDonald versus City of Chicago, the Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms is a fundamental right that applies to the states through the 14th Amendment's due process clause, and that individuals have the right to possess firearms for lawful purposes, including self-defense in the home. It's including self-defense in the home, not limited to that. Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, 373 U.S. 262 in 1963 was a significant civil rights case in which the Supreme Court of the United States held that Birmingham, Alabama ordinance that required groups to obtain a permit before engaging in public demonstrations violated the first 14th Amendments. The case arose from efforts by civil rights activists, including Fred Shuttlesworth, to protest segregation and discrimination in Birmingham. The court held that the permit requirement gave too much discretion to local officials to grant or deny permits that imposed on an unconstitutional prior restraint on speech. Fundamental basically means unalienable. So the Supreme Court has upheld certain unalienable rights. Certain does not mean certain as a few or which we choose. It means without doubt, certain. The Declaration, the Bill of Rights, common sense, and all of the founders' papers that turned out to be the Constitution of the United States of America. This inclusion of material is the foundation that we are resting our social construct on. The fallen soldier, police officer, firemen have only reinforced this foundation. The social construct is the individual's rights, even if those rights are dangerous to other individuals and or the public. Traveling the highway alone kills 37,000 per year. Dangerous jobs, dangerous adventures, and hobbies. We know this as a social construct. These things just listed, even when used right, can still kill many people at once. You are no longer allowed to use for safety reasons to regulate firearms. Nor are you allowed to slow down a right for safety reasons. To permit gives you authority over something that is unalienable. Only criminals use firearms against their fellow citizen. Citizens use firearms to protect their citizens, their persons and citizens against the criminal. Who are you protecting when you disarm the good man and cannot disarm the bad man? Criminals have a black market to shop from, which is not able to be regulated. No permit, no background check, no waiting period, and no matter how many laws you pass, you will never stop man from making guns or buying guns. The legal citizen has to defend himself first. Then police respond, then government officials make laws that the criminals continue to ignore. The citizen is always the first to be affected and forced to take action. Why would a government tie the hands of its people by regulating the legal system of the legal citizen to buy firearms? How many police are along the border heroically trying to stop the criminals ignoring the laws? How many illegals are crossing over? Millions. Now let's examine the wording used in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and its amendments. The Declaration of Independence is giving 3 ways that liberties can be taken away, cannot be taken away, by not allowing to be governed with laws that are overreaching, by having your right to defend yourself legally, and having your right to protect yourself physically. The Declaration is also demanding that these are untouchable by man or man's laws, and when they become denied or disparaged or infringed and violated, the Declaration goes on then to explain.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up now.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to come back next meeting. Thank you. Anybody else would like to address the board?
Wait a second before you put this back on there. It might muffle a little bit.
Oh, okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak. So my name is Adam Levine. I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins University, so I've actually driven up from Baltimore in order to speak in front of you tonight. I'm working with a researcher at Cornell and also the New York State Association of Counties, NYSAC, and we have a new initiative to connect research to policy at the county level. And this is particularly related to any issue having to do with child or family policy. So I'm the guy that's responsible for the, I think I'm like, there, I'm the guy who's responsible for the handout that Amanda, thank you Amanda for passing that out before. So, and what you see on there is sort of a picture of me and then also my partner in crime, Elizabeth Day, who's at Cornell and the University of Oregon. And so, so anyway, so this relates to any child and family policy, and the way that it works is that I'll send you an email pretty much probably tomorrow and say, you know, is there any issue you'd like to connect on? We'll schedule a quick phone call to learn about sort of what issue you care about, and then we have a great team of research assistants who will then sort of put together a very short research brief that speaks to whatever issue you're thinking about and whichever issue you're working on. And that's really it. And so I guess I'm happy to answer any specific questions about some of the kinds of issues. We've done this with other counties before, you know, things related to mental health, things related to early intervention, things related to how to conduct surveys, things related to childcare, you know, you name it, anything related to child and family policy. The last thing I just wanted to say was I drove up here from Baltimore in part because I think I really value seeing the legislature in action. I also think it's way more important than just sending a random email for me to sort of like, so you can put a face with a name and I can sort of do the same. I'll try to remember at least some of the names that I see. And also on a personal note, I actually used to be a professor at Cornell myself, and that was before the pandemic. But then things changed, and now I'm down in Baltimore. I'm happy to answer any questions with the remaining time of the 5 minutes, but otherwise, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you again, Amanda, for answering my emails in advance of coming tonight. So thank you.
I just have one question, sir.
Yeah.
Supervisor Farrar. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What's the objective?
Oh, yeah. So so we share the same objective as the New York State Association of Counties, which is to the idea that there's a lot of research on sort of child and family policy that gets published in journals or gets presented who knows where, but never makes it into the hands of the people who are facing these issues kind of like, on the front lines. And so the idea is sort of to make it easy and make it as easy as possible, but also sort of recognizing that that research is only going to be helpful if the people who know about it also are in communication with folks on the ground who have the expertise related to the place and the history and things like that. And so what we're trying to do is sort of not just sort of like push out white papers, but rather sort of have a conversation and then produce something that's hopefully helpful directly in response to that.
So would it be beneficial that some of the people that are sitting behind me, the department leaders and so forth in charge of certain departments, or the feet on the ground, the boots on the ground, so to speak, would it be helpful for those people to provide some input who know things firsthand versus, I'm not opposed to this, but I'm just saying, would that be something that would be welcomed as well?
Yeah, so
legislatures, but we work very closely with each other.
Yeah, so what's happened, our experiences in other counties so far is usually we definitely sort of speak to legislators and supervisors, but then also we've definitely spoken to folks rather in the executive branch as well. Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes it's a combination, and so sometimes folks might say, well, I'd love to have a conversation, but let me bring on this one other person, and then we're going to do it that way, and that's totally fine. I mean, whatever sort of makes the most sense on your end. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is this new research you'd be doing, or is this the compilation of research you've already done that you'd be sharing?
So at least initially, and this is more in the interest of sort of having it happen quickly, it's a compilation of stuff that we and others have done before. And so a lot of times what this looks like on the ground is basically, I'm facing, we're dealing with mental health right here. How have other counties dealt with it? And so what we're going to do is what our team does is sort of compile, this is what they've done, how much of this is helpful, how much it isn't helpful, and then we'll try to, kind of make it as efficient as possible.
And so maybe to Mike's point, would this also be shared with school districts, for example?
It can be, if that's helpful, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and actually early intervention policy, as I know, is particularly an interest of NISAC.
I have a question.
Oh. Supervisor Don Trout.
So second from John Hopkins, who is funding this whole program?
Oh.
New York State? Is it?
No. Yeah, sorry. I should have said that. That was on my list, too. So it's totally free. It's funded by the William T. Grant Foundation, which is a foundation that is dedicated to better connecting research and policy. But we're working with New York State Association of Counties because we've known a couple of the folks there, Mark Levine, spelled differently, no relation, and Ryan Gregoire for a couple of years now.
Thank you, Adam. I'm sorry your time's up. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else would like to address the board? Okay, moving on. I'm going to get a motion to approve the minutes, please.
So moved.
First and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports are approved. Minutes are approved. Okay, reports of standing committees. Let's start with Supervisor Don Trout.
I have nothing to report outside the resolutions that'll follow.
Perfect. Supervisor Heisen, you have anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Supervisor Paul Cornweather.
I have no resolutions. Kyle and I were at a Seneca Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization meeting, and
Hosted by the town of Fayette.
hosted by the town of Fayette, and they're wonderful facilities. And we also got new data on tributaries that you'll hear more of. And I think we have a solid waste management presentation next committee meeting, right?
March.
In March, yes. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Government Ops has 3 issues to come before the board tonight. One is the rules of order being amended for 2023, including the reorganization of committees, and the other is the pass-through Affordable Care Act.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, 2 issues. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Supervisor Brownell, do you have anything?
Nothing tonight,
Okay, thank you.
Chairman.
Supervisor Shipley.
Thank you, Chairman Enslow. The Indian Affairs Committee did not discuss any resolutions or any activity at the last board meeting. So I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Farrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have several resolutions tonight. The resolution was tabled, the following resolution was tabled to Personnel Committee on January 24th. That's amend longevity policy that will be brought back to committee in 2 weeks. With the help of Laura, we've been doing some research and so forth, so I'll have some new information for you in that committee meeting as well, okay? We looked at how many current employees had left the organization and came back, type of thing, okay? Reappointment of Seneca County Department of Human Services Commissioner. Board approves creation and filling a full-time psychiatric nurse practitioner for the Mental Health Department, and the Board of Supervisors authorized the personnel officer to execute a memorandum of agreement by and between the County of Seneca and CSEA Local 1000 effective immediately. That's all we have, sir.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Outside of what is in the packet, we have one item that will come under new business, and that will be the filling of the vacant coroner's position that was discussed in committee.
Thank you. Supervisor Borst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The January 24th committee meeting, the following resolutions were passed by the committee and are on the agenda for tonight. We're going to ask to accept the lead poisoning prevention grant, approve the early intervention provider agreement with New York State, accept the performance improvement grant, and do a surplus declaration for a health department vehicle. That's it.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism met on January 24th. We passed 5 resolutions out of committee, 3 of which were adopted later on that evening at a special board meeting, and 2 of which will appear in front of us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Reynolds.
Oh, sorry, Chairman, I got 3 resolutions tonight. One is to apply and accept the federal local government for tribal consistency funds. We got some amendments to the budget, it's changing, and we had a special meeting tonight to change the sales tax, or not change the sales, it's the same, keep the same sales tax, and calm down, Kyle.
You got him.
Calm down.
When I say sales tax, you're all crazy.
Anyway, a resolution to extend the sales tax on to another 5 years if it passes. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Chairman's remarks. I don't have anything tonight. County Manager Rowe, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 things. I know members of the board know that Seneca County will be hosting the Inter-County Association of Western New York this Friday morning at Del Lago. It's a 19-member association. We will have distinguished guests present, Senator Tom O'Mara, Assemblymember Phil Palmisano, staff from Assemblyman Gallahan's office, staff from NISAC, and I'm sure there will be some discussion about the state budget that's pending before the legislature. I think at least 3 members of the board will be attending, and if anybody else would like to be there, 9:30ish to check in, 10 o'clock, the formal meeting comes to order. Should go till about noon or so. The other thing I want to let the board know and the public is that tomorrow, federal officials from Washington, D.C. and state officials from the Veterans Services Office are planning a visit to the Sampson Veterans Memorial Cemetery as the state continues to ready for takeover of the cemetery, particularly with an eye towards the next round of physical improvements that have been tentatively approved with federal funding. We do not have the deed back yet to file, but things continue to move forward with the transition to state ownership. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question to the
Supervisor
county
Shipley.
manager. Mitch, you attended the governor's presentation of her proposed budget amendments.
Yes.
I just wondered, what did you glean from that? And did she talk about the FMAP at all? Medicaid.
So she did not address EFMAP nor any county issues. She announced, unfortunately, it was not the Village of Waterloo. She announced the winners of the regional DRI, and I think it's called New York Forward now, because the DRI is 10 million. And you applied too, right, Jeff? Yes. So I'm sorry. So not just Village of Waterloo. So
Imagine that.
Perry, Village of Perry in Wyoming County, 10 million. Village of Geneseo and Livingston, 4.5. And Village of Medina, 4.5. So I was disappointed that we did not have a winner. There's always next year. She did not. She talked a little, I guess the one thing that would relate here is I think you're all aware that part of her budget submission / message is a goal to create 800,000 new housing units in the state over the next 10 years. And while I haven't dove into the specifics of the legislation, one of the things that I've been seeing online and in emails is perhaps an attempt to, and I know we have some communities here that don't have zoning, but to basically override local zoning to increase housing opportunities. She talked a little bit about her personal experience. I think she was on a town board for 14 years, she said, in Erie County, and spent some time on the planning board and the zoning board, so she clearly has some perspective and experience. Nothing about EFMAP, nothing about the changes to the MREM foreclosure action, which could have an impact on county governments. Basically, one of the highlights is that any amount beyond the back tax amount that there's value in the home, that money would go back to the property owner, which is not the way it's ever been. But it was interesting that County Executive Adam Bella was in attendance, and he was not invited to speak. Mayor Rochester was invited to speak. Some of the local assembly and senators were invited to speak, but Executive Bella was not invited to speak.
He's Monroe County Executive.
Monroe County Executive, yes. So
some of those issues that you mentioned directly affect Monroe County.
Yeah, proportionally the same as us. They got more zeros on the end of the numbers than we do, but proportionally it's the same impact. Yep. So she did a nice job, and you know, happy for the communities that got the DRI and the New York Forward. But unfortunately, our request here within Seneca County didn't make it this year.
Imagine that.
So.
Mitch, I got a question.
Supervisor Don Trout.
The people that you just said that they were going to get, you know, part of a reimbursement on their taxes, is that after the property goes up for foreclosure? You're talking about paying them whatever dividends left over?
That's my understanding. Let's say, just to use round numbers, if the back taxes and or the amount that gets sold at the auction is 50 and your house is worth 100, that the balance would go back to the property owner after the foreclosure.
Do they have any explanation as to why they would do something like that?
I'm not fully versed in the explanation of it. My gut tells me it comes back to the notion of the feeling of equity or whatever. But, you know, at the same time, there's some that we take the hit on. And I know I'm saying this to town supervisors, but the county guarantees the levy to all the towns and all the villages and all the school districts. And so it's a little bit of a complicated matter. I don't know how the county-related issues are ultimately going to shake out. It'll be interesting to hear from Tom O'Mara and Phil Palmisano and the folks from NISEC on Friday, what their take on it is. I know the hearings have started in Albany, so I'll keep you all posted.
Yeah, our zombie properties are hard enough to deal with. I can't imagine paying somebody a dividend for taxes that weren't paid on the property. Especially how convoluted that can get depending on how many years you want to go back. You know?
Yeah, and then, you know, who determines what the fair market value of the property is and stuff like that. Yeah.
We get our money back first?
Yeah, the amount, the back tax, and then whatever re-levies the county has guaranteed to the towns, yes.
Yeah, we're made whole, the owners get the bonus check.
Mitch, you also mentioned the housing issues, and I applaud her by addressing the housing issues. But one thing that, did she specify that all this housing she was talking about is going to be total electric? No gas? Lines?
She did not address that issue at her event yesterday.
You know, that's an issue that's going around the county legislatures on this part of the state. That's something we're going to have to talk about in future meetings.
Absolutely.
I'm working on an affordable housing project in Seneca Falls, preliminary stages, and the funding will all happen based on green, zero energy emissions. So yeah, to answer your question, it'll be all electric.
That's where it's going.
It'll be all solar panel roofs, yes.
Any more questions?
Get on the train.
Everybody good with Mitch?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Supervisor Ettman, or County Attorney Ettman, sorry. No, you don't.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Other than, I think the questions that you asked about the tax foreclosure issue those are very high issues among the county attorneys and the treasurers. There have been a lot of memos and emails circulated. There's a lot of problems with the proposal, and it goes back to the fundamentals of what's going to happen to mortgage holders, liens holders, judgment holders. It's a can of worms that sounded good, but it's very difficult, and it will be, as was said, it will be very interesting to hear how our legislators want to try and poke that one and see if they can keep that from happening, because at this point it's entirely too crazy. That's a defined legal term. It's just too crazy. Other than that, we're moving forward on some other issues and trying to keep the county in good legal stead, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Communications.
Communications 7 through 17 have been received and filed.
Thank you very much. All right, resolutions and motions. Finance
Special
number.
committees?
No.
No special?
Yes, any special committees? Anybody have anything?
I got everybody on their desk there. Soil and Water has put a flyer out there, and kind of tells what we do there, and
It's kind of a addition, or it supplements what Aaron presented back in December.
Yep.
So it's a nice.
Put it on your bulletin board at your office or something there. People can look at it there, and we can need all the PR we can get. Lots of help there. We can utilize them anytime. So put them to work, please.
Thank you.
Mike, were you going to clarify the New York State audit?
Yeah, Haley's standing up there. We can talk about it right now if you want. This is back to finance. There were some questions whether audit was filed, and Haley can enlighten us that it's been done.
So yes, the AUD was submitted to the comptrollers on January 30th, and it is under review with their staff. They go through a process where they reconcile the AUD with our audited document, and then they will get that back to us. If there's anything they need to have addressed. We have an email dialogue, and once that's finally certified, I can let you all know.
Then they'll place us on the list that we have filed it.
That's my understanding. Correct.
One question I would have that you could educate the rest of the board is initially the AUD is supposed to be filed, we were just talking about that, 120 days after fiscal year end. That's like May 1st.
That's correct. That's May 1st.
Do we expect to file ours this year by that date?
This year we will do what they call a pre-file. The ideal situation is to have your audit done and then file, but unfortunately our audit cycle has never really allowed us to do that. And the year that we had the GASB 84 transition, when we pre-filed the AUD and then had that audit not completed until December, it took us 6 months to reconcile that audit document with the pre-file document, which has sent why the AUD cycle has been pushed back. Now, this year, we will file the pre-file May 1st. There shouldn't be, God willing, any major GASB audit adjustments this year that would preclude us having a difficult reconciliation process with the Comptroller's office.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle, got a question for Haley or somebody?
Yeah. Hallie, Supervisor Shipley had mentioned that our weekly payments to Medicaid are, I think you said 116,000, is that right? Is that what you said, Bob?
That neighborhood.
Hallie, do you have is that an accurate number?
Well, we're currently paying $96,000 and change per week, and part of that is, and Commissioner Van Vleck is here as well to speak to that issue where we've had the EFMAT savings, but we have always budgeted at our cap because we know that that savings can be temporary, and knowing full well that it could raise, we budget at $120,000 per week.
Okay. So if that amount doesn't end up going up this year, does that approximate $1.2 million, would that go to fund balance?
It could, unless there's other areas within the commissioner's budget that need to have that support.
Okay, thank you.
Mike. Jeff,
Haley, just so barring a GASB type situation like that, again, do you anticipate being able to get on track with the audit so they're in by May 1st and so that it's all?
Correct.
That's what you okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
And then when does the actual have to be filed? The AUD has to be filed by May 1st, but
right. And then, well,
the audited version?
The audit, which is your single audit, has the deadline of September 30th.
Okay.
That's a requirement for the feds to get to all your grant agencies. So my goal is to have that all done way before that. Because my philosophy is that you should have that information for when you're going into your next year's budget cycle. That's really information you need to have for making your next year's budget decisions.
You work with a new firm this year.
Correct. Drescher
Is that a good
Malecki.
experience overall?
Yes, I've enjoyed working with them. They have a team that are able to get electronic access to our software. They're very familiar with the Munis software, so that allows them to actually do their audit, find the backup within our documents that are attached to our software, which allows me to keep my staff time during the audit lower because I'm not having to tie up staff to go and pull documents out of files.
So hopefully that will translate into earlier filings this year.
Hopefully, it will be a more efficient audit, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
So before you, we do have an amended budget amendment resolution. I think that's what's next on your agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting to that, yep.
Okay.
Good time to address it.
Yeah.
While you're here,
Number 14, Supervisor Reynolds.
Board of Supervisors authorize amendments to the 2022 budget.
Support. Second.
First and a second.
Are we amending this?
We are amending this.
Okay. What do we need to do?
Make a motion to amend?
Yeah, we could do that.
So I placed on all of your desks the amended version of what we took to committee a couple of weeks ago. You're going to find that under note number 1, we've had more detailed list of DHS budget transfers that we need to reallocate for year-end bills that have come in. Note number 2 stayed the same for the OFA grant. The note number 3 for highway stayed the same. Note number 4 for public health, we added an additional $40,000 that needed to be addressed in other bills that came in for the preschool 3 to 5 program. And then note number 5 is for the LEC budget. We had a $44,000 expenditure housing bill that we were able to absorb $15,000, but $30,000 we wanted to reallocate by using some of the excess food budget in the jail. Note number 6 is the Board of Elections, where we had poll workers this year, shortfall of $31,000 that we want to use contingency to cover that. I guess we had an extra election this year, so and with the early voting, it's required more part-time poll workers. And then note number 7, which is on the back page of, or on the second page of this, is the Stop DWI budget. We did an analysis of our crackdown grant and determined that there were a number of prior years of submissions from the town and from the sheriff that while we submitted it for the revenue, the amounts were never paid out to the agencies that should have been paid out for reimbursement. So we wanted to make sure we took care of that this year. We went back to 2015 and got us caught up. So the town of Seneca Falls should be getting a check for the $13,700. Waterloo, there's $598, and then the sheriff's office is $18,715. That anything that was not able to be covered within the current year budget, we pulled from the Stop DWI reserve, and we pulled $4,300 in this budget transfer. The current Stop DWI reserve is at $156,000, so we have plenty.
When you send it over, can you make sure tell them to goes towards the supervisor's salary for me, please?
It's called a stipend. You gotta do that on your own.
Any more questions for Haley?
Yeah, Haley, you mentioned note 6, Board of Elections.
Yes.
And that shortfall was going to be taken out of contingency. This is for the 2022 budget.
Yes.
How much was left in the contingency fund?
We had over $130,000 still in the contingency budget.
And we were still going to have about $100,000 left.
Yes,
over then.
And I did want to let you know that between Mitch and I, the budget transfers for the raises that were put forth in the 22 budget, we were able to do all those budget transfers within the existing budgets. We didn't have to take anything from fund balance, so we wanted to let you know we were able to make that happen.
Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Haley, just, it looks like, I haven't added them all up, but it looks like a lot of the budget adjustments are like net zero, because they're just moving them from one line item to another.
Correct. We're not using any fund balance in any of these lines. Or we may have gotten excess revenue in some of the lines as well. That's true.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, Supervisor Reynolds.
Board of Supervisors request home rule legislation for extension of additional 1% sales tax.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 16, Public Works, Supervisor Don Trout.
Seneca County Board of Supervisors award construction contracts for Division of Human Services Phase 4 Public Defenders Construction Project.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, Government Ops, Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Resolution amending the standing committees of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors and amending the rules of order for 2023.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Heisen.
I think we should just leave it the way it is. Been 3 years working, haven't been any problem with that. End of this, you got merging the sewer districts in the north end with the south end. That's a recipe for disaster. I'll be voting no on this. Works now. Don't fix it.
Thank you. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Reynolds,
I'm gonna go nay.
Supervisor Jeffrey Trout,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownell,
Aye.
Supervisor Barnhart,
Aye.
Supervisor Borst.
Aye.
Hayes is absent.
Aye.
Supervisor Ferrara,
No.
Supervisor Cronenwater,
No.
Supervisor Reinhardt,
Yes.
Partee is absent. Supervisor Heisen,
No.
Supervisor Don Trout,
Yes.
Supervisor Enslow,
Yes.
Supervisor Shipley.
Yes.
It looks like there's 447 A's, 229 nays, and 74 absent. So it passes.
Okay. Move forward. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Number 17, Supervisor Jeff Trout.
Or you mean 18?
Oh, 18, I'm sorry.
Board of Supervisors call on the state of New York to continue the pass-through Federal Affordable Care Act Enhanced Federal Medicaid Assistance Percentage Funds.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Personnel, 19, Supervisor Farrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask two questions before I go over the resolutions? Are the committee appointments going to be made by you? What's that process going to be for the committee appointments, and what do we anticipate finding out?
Yes, thank you. So a few weeks back, or last month now, I met with the minority leader and the minority leader, and we had a meeting on committees, and we discussed it at length. And then we're moving forward with the structure, and then when that didn't move forward, things kind of stalled. But I'm working on the draft, and I hope to have it, I will have it finalized by the end of this week, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my second question is more directed to Mitch, I think. Where are we with the pursuit of a confidential secretary? Any luck?
Professional assistant.
Professional assistant.
I'm talking about secretaries.
I can't use that word anymore.
My sister.
Without mentioning names, I'm just want to know if we had any success.
Still working on it.
Okay. Right. Personnel, resolution number 19, Tracy Van Flack appointed as Commissioner of Human Services for the period March 13th, 2023 through March 13th, 2028.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 20, Supervisor Farrar.
Congratulations, Tracy.
Congratulations.
Board approves creation and filling of one full-time psychiatric nurse practitioner with the mental health department.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Personnel 21,
Board
Supervisor.
of Supervisors authorize the personnel officer to execute a memorandum of agreement by and between the County of Seneca and CSEA Incorporated, Local 1000, AFL-CIO, effective immediately.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 22, Supervisor Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board of Supervisors accepts fiscal year 2022 State Homeland Security Program grant.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 23, Supervisor Reinhardt.
Board of Supervisors accepts fiscal year 2022 Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Supervisor Reinhardt, 24.
Supervisor authorize acceptance of New York's Office of Victim Services grant.
Support.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 25, Supervisor Reinhardt.
Board of Supervisors authorizes acceptance of the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Planning Grant.
Support.
First and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 26, Supervisor Reinhardt.
Last one. Board of
You got it.
Supervisors accepts fiscal year 2022 Domestic Terrorism Prevention Grant.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 27, Supervisor Borst.
County manager authorized and directed to sign a contract with the New York State Department of Health for the Lead Poisoning Prevention Program grant.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 28, Supervisor Borst.
Director of Public Health authorized and directed to sign a provider agreement with the New York State Department of Health Bureau of Early Intervention.
Got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 29, Supervisor Borst.
Amend 2023 public health budget to accept a New York State Department of Health Performance Improvement Grant.
Support.
Got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 30, Supervisor Borst.
Board of Supervisors declares vehicle as surplus and authorizes auction of the same.
Support.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those, what's that? I'm not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 31, Supervisor Barnhart.
Appoint Michael Reynolds and Jeffrey Trout to the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District Board.
Second.
Got lots of support. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 32, Supervisor Barnhart.
Supervisors reappoint Steve Brusso to the Industrial Development Agency Board.
Support.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any unfinished business for this board? Supervisor,
I'd just like to comment and thank all the department heads and our county manager for all those grants we just approved right there. Work on those. Thank you very much.
thank you.
You're here.
Supervisor Barnhart.
No, you're here.
I thought you had something else.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah.
Okay, no unfinished business. Any new business? Supervisor Reinhardt.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce a resolution appointing Joe Stevens to fill the vacant coroner's position till December 31st, 2023.
Support.
Do we need to rule 29 that?
It went through committee.
Did it?
We
Yep,
held committees
special
before.
committee meeting we had earlier, so, okay. All right, we got a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any other business?
Special order of the day.
Special order of the day, Mr. Don Trout,
Second.
Second.
first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion- Thank you, everybody.
Hang
Meeting
with you,
stands
Mike. I'll
adjourned.
stay with you.